In 2 decades following the Great Depression, football became the sport that meant the most to Americans, the embodiment of the American experience. From the moment a Texas boy can peer above the tall grass and see down yonder prairie, football is his first language. Football became that thing we cannot do without. But now, in the 21st century, with all that we know about the sport, a different question is upon us.
Still got a shot at it. Whoa! Helmet's out, ball's out. Oh my. And Josh Cribbs is probably out.
Is football something that we can live with?
Morgan Cox made the...
When I think about concussion and inflammation, there is an important component that is good, and that is a process in which the brain is trying to heal itself. And then after that, there's an important phase when inflammation needs to resolve and needs to be shut down. And this goes on in a number of different places in the body. So a lot of the data that we have on traumatic brain injury suggests that some of the long-term pathology that's associated with concussion is related to inflammation that does not resolve itself. So when after 72 hours you would hope that the inflammation that is caused by traumatic brain injury would kind of come to an end, it may go on for weeks, it may go on for months, and in some cases it goes on for years.
Short-term memory is not good.
Really I think that, go back, I forgot.
The things we do to one another, okay?
There's been an enormous shift in public opinion about concussion. We used to think of it as a ding or, getting just a little minor injury that you could just shake off. But now we know that there are, in some individuals, long-term devastating effects.
Football in the state of Texas is a way of life. It's ingrained in the culture here in our state. It's basically a rite of passage as a Texan.
With nearly 1,600 middle schools and 1,445 high schools, over 6 enrollment classifications, there are more young men playing football in Texas on a single Friday night than any other place in the country. For the 2012 school year, 165,000 boys were on high school football rosters in Texas.
My son is a pretty good football player, and this year he happened to have a concussion.
It was, if not one of the last plays of the game for the championship for 8th grade, and he was playing linebacker and his helmet popped off.
My son's concussion actually happened the very last play before halftime.
When I went down there, he was kind of in la-la land, but after later on, they started, doing things. Well, about a week, I thought he was okay.
Once that happened, they stopped the game, and I think they realized that he was definitely injured.
We asked him what his mother's name was, and he didn't know that, and then asked him what his phone number was, and he just said the number 4.
It was more serious than I thought, and when the doctor said that, it was a brain injury, that he had a brain injury, then my antennas went up that, maybe there's something more.
The human body is one amazing electromagnetic field. Every atom, every cell, every organ in our body produces a chemical reaction. And that chemical reaction results in a bioelectronic magnetic footprint. Imagine this, 70 trillion cells in your body, all with a mobile phone. Their network, the way they communicate, is through electromagnetic frequencies. Now, we've all heard not to live near power lines and cell phone towers. Why is that? Because they emit an electromagnetic frequency that our cells can hear and just might harm us. But what if you could harness an electromagnetic field and use it to heal damaged tissue? We know it's possible. We call the process PEMF, Targeted Electromagnetic Field Therapy, and it offers us a non-invasive way to target tissue and demonstrate an anti-inflammatory effect.
Unfortunately, there really are no therapies other than the standard of care right now. So when somebody gets a concussion, depending on the severity, they will seek attention from a medical professional. The medical professional will rule out that they've had a fracture of the skull or a hemorrhage, and if that's the case, they will be sent home with instructions to rest. And that works for a majority of people. About 20% of people, however, do not resolve. Their symptoms are persistent. Some of those, what they call post-concussion symptoms, can go on for weeks to months after the concussive blow. And again, it's important to underscore that there's currently no therapy that is known to be effective for people that have this condition.
Almost 2 hours after the hit or the contact, he still was not remembering things. His brain really wasn't coming back to like I was anticipating.
We then took him to the doctor the next day, and they do a baseline. He had not had a baseline at that point, so they did a baseline, and he failed terribly and had severe headaches. Still has very limited memory of what happened during that time, and it's also affected him in school as far as what he had learned up to that point. It was as if he had to relearn it because some of that he lost that knowledge from school.
He could not listen to any loud music. They didn't want any lights, so he went and did a field study where they put him in a balance machine, and they did some neurological testing, and then we went back and did the same testing again, and they took those results and sent him to a neurosurgeon. By that time, he was ready. The season was over.
So this is our pulsed electromagnetic field device that is currently FDA approved to treat post-surgical pain and swelling. And we're now in the process of building this into a hat that we're calling the TheraCap. And the TheraCap will be used to treat people with post-concussion syndrome and traumatic brain injury. So to explain to you a little bit about how the device works, twice a second a current passes through this loop, which is a copper wire. And when you pass current through a wire, it induces an electromagnetic field. And anything that is within about the size of a football in distance from this wire is treated with a therapeutic field, which is an electric field. And in this particular case, our intention is to test whether this treatment on someone's head will promote their recovery of function and potentially have anti-neuroinflammatory effects.
Me as a father, I've got mixed emotions, but nothing strong enough to sway him against playing again. I think he wants to do, if he wants to play, that's what he wants to do, and I'll back him up.
As a parent, as a mom, I would like to say no more football, but I would be outvoted on that one by his father and him.
There's risk and reward, so once you take that risk, I mean, you've got guys taking that risk that they will lose their life for football.
It's a Texas sport. It's what people play here.
Neurosciences, we're currently at the phase in which we have collected an enormous amount of data that suggests that treatment with this device has potent anti-inflammatory effects in humans in the peripheral parts of the body. We also have data that suggests in animal models that treatment with this device can be protective after traumatic brain injury. So the idea of Friday Night Lights Out is we will be recruiting concussed high school and college football players who will present to their clinician within 72 hours complaining of concussion symptoms. We will enroll them in the study and give them study devices, the TheraCap. which they will treat themselves 4 times a day with, and we will follow these concussed patients over a period of 6 weeks to monitor their resolution of symptoms and the speed at which they return to school and return to play.
Football is a part of Americana. On Sundays in the fall, a great number of Americans are watching and being entertained by this game. And I think that everyone that loves this game or that has a role in this game or a part of it has a responsibility to make sure that it's being played safe at every level.